When he steps down next week, President Muhammadu Buhari will be leaving Nigerians less secured, poorer, and more in debt than when he came to office in 2015. The former military ruler became president after winning a momentum election which saw the defeat of underperforming incumbent Goodluck Jonathan, which people consider now as a saint. Riding a wave of optimism that change was possible, he was supported by a powerful coalition and the reputation of being a hard-man soldier who would get things done. After Buhari's brief stint in charge in the 1980s, his second coming was on the back of promise to curtail rampant Islamic insurgency in the northeast and tackle widespread corruption. He is the last of a generation of British-trained military men who went on to govern the country. But the 80 years old's 4 years term have left many disappointed. There have been gains in tackling Boko Haram and other extremist groups in the northeast, aided by improved military hardware from the US and the UK and other Western countries as well as Russia. While the groups still carry out attacks on communities and military installations in the region, it is a big improvement for the years when they operated freely and controlled a large portion of the Nigerian territory. Mr. Buhari also utilizes Chinese loan to upgrade ailing road and rail infrastructure, building a new port in Lagos, completing a crucial bridge in the southeast, and passing important electoral and oil sector laws. But whatever gains have been recorded in the northeast against the Islamic militants have been eroded by the emergence of equally violent groups in other parts of the country under his watch. Clashes between farmers and cattle herders from the Fulani ethnic group, which had simmered for years, were allowed to boil over into deadly armed confrontation with an ethnic element as the government ran out of ideas to solve the problem of where animals could graze. Mr. Buhari, a Fulani from the northern Nigeria, was accused of bias in the conflict, and his proposal of grazing reserves for the herders were rebuffed by powerful southern state governors who saw it as a land-grabbing tactics. Some of the armed groups created by farmer herders crisis have since transitioned into violent motorcycle riding bandits, targeting communities in the northwest and central states. These groups have helped turn a lucrative kidnap for ransom business into a behemoth that now extends countrywide. It took hold during the first decade of the country when oil workers were kidnapped in the Niger Delta and blossomed under Buhari's watch as the targets changed. For instance, thousands of school children were abducted between December 2020 and September 2021. According to the UN's children organization UNICEF, that eclipsed the 270 girls seized from the school in Chibok who made global headlines in 2014, a crime that was a crucial factor in Mr. Buhari defeating Mr. Jonathan. I thought that was a former military ruler. He would have the solution to Nigerian security challenges. Musa Ahmadu, a farmer now living in northwest states of Kano, told reporters. Mr. Ahmadu, originally from the president's home state of Katsina, abandoned his land and fled to neighboring Kano, alongside thousands of others because of activities of armed groups in the region. Many also have believed that Mr. Buhari has mishandled the situation thrown up by separatist leader Nnamdi Kanu. Mr. Kanu heads of Indigenous People of Biafra (IPOB), a group seeking secession in the southeast, which is proscribed by the government. He is a charismatic figure with a huge appetite for sensationalism, which he fed devotees via his internet radio station. IPOB was largely ignored by many Nigerians until Mr. Kanu was first arrested for treason by the Buhari administration in 2015. A subsequent state-sanctioned attack on his home marked the beginning of an armed confrontation that has spiraled out of control, claiming hundreds of lives in the process. After escaping in 2017, he was abducted in unclear circumstances abroad and returned to Nigeria in 2021 to face trial. A judge has ordered his release as the process of his return was illegal, but authorities continue to hold him and disregarding the law. These security challenges made many question Buhari's handling of sector that was supposed to be his area of expertise. I am surprised at the level of embarrassment he has brought to this constituency. The military, despite all the promises made, said retired Colonel Hassan Stan Labi, a security analyst. How can you fail in your own area of specialty? He asked. The countryside insecurity under Mr. Buhari has largely been mooted in the oil-rich Niger Delta region, where oil militants and sea pirates held sway in the past. But that peace seemed to have coincided with a period of large-scale oil theft, with the government accused of looking away while different groups in the region steal crude from the pipelines. This led to Nigerian production plunging to a 30-year low in 2022. The shocking discovery last October of a kilometer-long pipeline used to steal oil was described by commentators as nearly impossible without help from authority. In one location, thieves built their own 4-kilometer-long pipeline through the heavily guarded creeks in the Atlantic Ocean. Their barges and vessels blatantly loaded the stolen oil from a 7-meter rig visible for miles on the open water. That theft of such a scale happened directly under Mr. Buhari, who also doubled as Nigeria's petroleum minister, undermines his claim to be fighting graft. Salahuddin Hashim, an anti-corruption NGO, Clean Foundation, told reporters. Mr. Buhari's integrity was also impugned by his frequent medical trips to the UK, despite spending large sums to refurbish a clinic in the presidential villa. The lack of transparency drained taxpayers' monies, encouraged illicit financial flows and other corruption-enabling activities. The administration preached against Aula Rafsanjani, the head of Transparency International in Nigeria, told reporters. Mr. Rafsanjani scored the administration 4 out of 10 in fighting corruption and said Mr. Buhari's appointment of people with ongoing corruption cases to his cabinet and his wife's long stay in expensive Dubai homes contravened best practice by an administration that was fighting corruption and mismanagement. As he leaves, Mr. Buhari's handling of Nigeria's economy will most likely be remembered for his botched attempts earlier this year at redesigning the local currency. An otherwise rudimentary exercise descended into chaos as scarcity of the new naira note, which have now almost disappeared, resulted in untold hardship for millions in the country who relied on cash for basic needs. The small business we are doing was destroyed by that man, said a university graduate in Abuja, who made money while supplying black notes to our customers before the cash crisis. Our anger was fueled by a common problem in Nigeria, a lack of work among educated young people. Currently, 1 in 3 Nigerians who want to work are unable to find a job. Before Mr. Buhari took over, that figure was less than 1 in 10. A drastic drop. The government have blamed a drastic drop in oil prices in the early days, COVID pandemic and Russia's war in Ukraine. Some of its policies, such as currency restriction and closing land border to boost local production, have contributed towards record inflation that has made millions poorer and depleted a once burgeoning Nigerian middle class. With the end in sight, Mr. Buhari pleaded with lawmakers to hurriedly approve $800 million, that is €640 million loan from the World Bank. Nigeria's public debt could pass $150 billion this year. When he took over, it stood at a little over $60 billion. His borrowing spree has drawn warning from the World Bank that Africa's largest economy was using 96% of its revenue for service debt. But the huge debt has been defended by administration, who say it is within acceptability limits, pointing to cash payment to poor people as justification for some of the loans. These welfarist interventions give a window into a kind of soul of the president, a man some people have not bothered to discern, dissect and decipher. Presidential spokesman Femi Adesina wrote last week, but came under heavy fire. Like him, many in the administration insist that he has a good 8 years run, although both he and his wife have apologized for not delivering on the promises made. Mr. Buhari has said that he tried his best. I want Nigerians to analyze how things were when we came in and how they are when we are leaving, he responded when asked about his legacy last year. The fact is that Nigerians were safer, better off and less in debt before Mr. Buhari took over, and many will remember him for presiding over the toughest 8 years they might ever face. Now, handing over to the next president-elect, of which many Nigerians call Bola Ahmed Tinubu, becomes a bigger problem, of which most Nigerian youths don't have any hope and see a Buhari like. As a matter of fact, some Nigerian youth describe it as a Buhari Pro Max, that is a double problem for the country. But let's see how things go as the court case between Bola Ahmed Tinubu, Mr. Alhaji Atiku Abubakar and Mr. Peter Gregory, who is backed majorly by Nigerian youths.